Children, come close and listen carefully. Today, I will tell you a story from a small village near Kisumu, Kenya. It is a story of two sisters, born from the same womb, yet divided by jealousy. One's heart was pure, the other's was poisoned by envy. This story will teach you that no matter how dark betrayal looks, God always has His own plan. So listen well, my children. Ah, my children. You know, sometimes betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the very blood that runs in your own veins. My name is Nadia, and I come from a quiet village called Lamora, surrounded by tall acacia trees and red dusty roads. I grew up with my sister Amara, my only sibling, my shadow, my friend. At least that's what I believed. We were orphans of fate. Our father had died when we were young, and our mother raised us alone. She worked in the fields, selling maize and cassava just so we could go to school. From the time we were little, people would always say, Amara is the beautiful one. Nadia is the smart one. I never minded that. Beauty fades, but wisdom lasts. I used to tell myself. When I met Daniel, a young teacher who came to our village school, everything in my world changed. He was gentle, kind, and always looked at me like I was the only woman in the world. Soon we got engaged and the whole village began talking about our wedding. But my children, do you know what they say about jealousy? It sleeps with open eyes. In those days before my wedding, I noticed small changes in Amara. She would walk around Daniel more often, smiling too brightly, laughing too loudly. I ignored it. After all, she was my sister. But sometimes I caught Daniel looking back at her. Just for a second too long. That second planted a seed of fear in my heart. Then one evening, Mama called me. Her face looked tired. Nadia, she said softly. Amara is feeling left behind. She is older than you, yet you will marry first. Be kind to her. I promised I would, if only I had known what she was planning. The night before the wedding, I stayed at Mama's house. I remember the laughter of women outside, the sound of drums, and the smell of roasted goat meat in the air. Everyone was happy. Everyone except Amara. She didn't dance. She didn't sing. When I asked her what was wrong, she smiled and said, Nothing, sister. Tomorrow will be your big day. But her eyes told a different story. Cold, empty, and distant. Morning came. The sun rose golden over Lamora village, and I put on my white dress. The women sang blessings. Children ran barefoot through the dust. And I felt tears in my eyes as I thought about marrying Daniel, the man I loved more than anything. Then, just before the ceremony began, my world fell apart. Daniel never showed up. The guests waited. My heart pounded. And then, a woman ran into the crowd shouting, He's gone! Daniel is gone, with Amara. At first, I couldn't understand. I thought it was a lie, a cruel joke. But when I saw my mother's trembling hands and the letter Daniel left behind, I knew it was true. He had run away with my own sister. The same sister who used to braid my hair and share her last piece of bread with me. The letter said only one thing. Forgive me, Nadia. I have followed my heart. That day, I didn't just lose a fiancé. I lost my family, my faith, my name. The whole village whispered behind my back. The poor girl. Even her sister didn't want her to be happy. I stopped leaving my house. My smile became a stranger. But my children, in Africa, no secret stays buried forever. The gods have a way of bringing truth to light. And Amara's truth was darker than I could have imagined. In our village, we say, the snake that hides in the grass will one day raise its head. After the wedding disaster, I left Lamora. I couldn't bear the whispers, the pitying eyes, or the laughter that followed me like a curse. I went to stay with my aunt in Mbale town, far away from the red dust of home. For months I tried to forget. But how do you erase blood? How do you forget betrayal that carries your own last name? I heard that Amara and Daniel got married in a small city near the coast. People said they were happy, but I knew better. Happiness built on lies never lasts. Mama didn't talk to me much after that. Whenever she called, her voice was tired, broken. I could feel her guilt through the silence, but I never blamed her. She was a mother torn between two daughters, one innocent, one poisoned by envy. Then one night, something strange happened. Mama called me in tears. "Nadia, come home," she said. "Amara is sick, very sick." Her words froze my heart. For a moment, I didn't know what to feel. Fear, anger, or pity. But something inside me whispered, "Go back. The truth is waiting." When I reached Lamora, I saw Amara lying in Mama's old bed, thin, pale, trembling like a leaf in the wind. Daniel sat beside her, his face hollow, eyes full of regret. He looked up when I entered. "Nadia, please, you need to hear the truth," he said, voice shaking. My heart pounded as he spoke. He told me that Amara had deceived him, that she lied, saying I had been unfaithful, that I had broken our engagement before he ever left. She told him stories so cruel that he began to believe them. When he confronted her after their wedding, the guilt began to eat her alive. Then her sickness came, and it wasn't just of the body. It was her soul that was rotting. Amara reached for my hand, her eyes wet and glassy. "Nadia, I thought if I had him I would finally be loved. But all I found was emptiness," she whispered. "Please, forgive me, sister." In that moment, I didn't see the woman who stole my fiancé. I saw the girl who used to sleep beside me under the same mosquito net, who used to laugh with me under the rain. Tears rolled down my cheeks. But forgiveness, it's not something you give. It's something you grow into. I said nothing. I just held her hand, feeling her trembling fade into stillness. When she closed her eyes, I knew her story had ended before her apology could. Daniel buried her 2 days later, beneath the mango tree behind Mama's house. No guests, no music, only silence. Before leaving, he came to me again. "If I could change what I did, I would," he said. "I know," I replied quietly. "But some wounds don't heal. They only teach." That night, I sat outside under the moonlight, listening to the drums from another village wedding echo in the distance, and I whispered to myself, maybe this was never about losing love. Maybe it was about finding myself again. In Lamora, they say, when truth knocks, even the dead wake to listen. Weeks passed after Amara's burial. The house grew quiet again, but it wasn't peace. It was the silence of broken hearts. Mama barely spoke. Every morning she'd sit by the window, her eyes fixed on the mango tree where Amara rested. Sometimes I'd hear her whisper prayers, asking the ancestors for forgiveness. Not for her daughter, but for herself. I began to help around the house again. Cleaning, cooking, visiting the old market women who once gossiped about me. They now looked at me differently. Not with pity, but with respect. Pain changes people. It also changes how people see you. One afternoon, as I cleaned Amara's room, I found something strange. A small wooden box hidden beneath the floor mat. Inside was a folded piece of paper sealed with red thread. My hands trembled as I opened it. It was a letter, written in Amara's handwriting. "To my sister, Nadia," it began. "If you're reading this, it means I didn't have the courage to face you again. I want you to know the truth." Her words cut deep as I read on. She wrote how jealousy had consumed her for years, how she felt invisible beside me, how Mama's praises made her feel small. When Daniel proposed to me, she said it felt like life had finally chosen sides, and she was on the losing end. So she lied. She lied to Daniel, to Mama, to everyone, until her lies became her reality. And when the truth started to chase her, she ran, straight into the sickness that finished her. At the end of the letter, one line made me stop breathing for a moment. "I know I destroyed everything, but please, don't let my story destroy you too." I folded the letter slowly, tears blurring my vision. For the first time in years, I didn't feel anger anymore. Just Sorrow. Sorrow for the sister who never learned how to love herself. That night I went to the mango tree, holding the letter close to my chest. I lit a small candle and placed it near her grave. The wind blew softly through the branches, as if the tree itself was breathing with me. You found peace too late, Amara, I whispered. But maybe now, I can find mine. When I turned back toward the house, I saw Mama standing in the doorway. She looked older, smaller somehow. She came closer, her voice trembling. Nadia, my child, can you forgive me? I should have seen it. I should have stopped her. I held her hand and said, Mama, we can't rewrite what's gone, but we can start a new story. One that doesn't begin with hate. For the first time in months, Mama smiled. A small, broken smile, but real. The next morning, I packed my bag. I was leaving Lamora again, not to escape, but to live. As I walked down the dusty road, I looked back one last time at the house that held both my pain and my past. Some stories end with tears, I whispered, but mine will end with peace. In our village, the elders say, no storm lasts forever, and no lie lives without truth finding it. Months passed since I left Lamora. The city was loud, busy, and full of faces that didn't know my name. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid to start again. I found a small job at a women's community center, helping young girls who had lost their way. Just like my sister once did. Every time I looked into their eyes, I saw bits of Amara. Her confusion, her pride, her pain. And slowly, helping them began to heal something inside me too. Mama wrote to me every week. Her letters were shorter now, softer. She had started planting flowers near Amara's grave. She said it made the house feel alive again. She even told me that people from the village came to visit, to apologize for believing lies, for turning away. I didn't need their apologies anymore. But it still warmed my heart to know that truth had finally spoken. One afternoon, as I sat outside the center, a familiar face walked toward me. It was Daniel. He looked older, humbler. The arrogance I once loved in him had faded into something like regret. He stood a few feet away, his voice barely above a whisper. Nadia, I never stopped thinking about you. I didn't know how blind I was back then. I didn't answer right away. There was a time when hearing his voice would have broken me. Now it only reminded me of how far I had come. I looked at him and said quietly, we were both blind, Daniel. But maybe blindness was what we needed, to finally see what truly matters. He nodded, eyes wet, then turned to leave. I didn't stop him. Some doors, once closed, aren't meant to be opened again, even if the memories inside them are kind. That evening, as the sun set behind the city hills, I took out Amara's letter again. I read her last words under the orange sky, the same sky that hung above Lamora. For the first time, they didn't make me cry. They made me grateful, because her betrayal, her choices, her downfall, all of it had carved a path for my rebirth. God had other plans, I whispered to myself. Plans bigger than the pain, stronger than the loss. When I returned home that night, Mama called. Her voice was light, almost joyful. My daughter, she said. Do you know the flowers by Amara's grave have bloomed again? Maybe she's found her peace at last. I smiled. Yes, Mama. And so have we. As I hung up the phone, I felt something shift in the air. A peace that came not from forgetting, but from forgiving. In the end, life didn't give me what I wanted. It gave me what I needed. Strength, wisdom, and the courage to start anew. In Lamora, I told the girls at the center the next morning, we say every wound tells a story, but healing, my daughters, healing tells the truth. Sometimes the worst betrayal becomes the seed of our greatest transformation. Amara's lies took away my wedding, my love, my family's trust. But they gave me something far greater, faith. And in that faith, I learned that When people plan to break you, God plans to build you stronger.